There we go. Okay, so why don't you start out? Just tell us a little about your background, your age, family,
Background,
kids.
okay. Well, I'm 45 years old. Been married for 15 years. I've got two kids. Well, I've got four kids. The oldest one, I have a son that's 23, a daughter that's 22, and two daughters that are 21.
Okay.
And two of them I'm real close with, and two of them not so much.
And grandkids?
I have two grandkids, one that's two and one that's one.
Okay.
Yeah, granddaughter and a grandson.
So you're not your typical Cheech and Chong kind
Not
of
so
person
much.
associated
Yeah.
with
No,
medical marijuana.
I've been self-employed. You know, I've had a number of businesses. I mean, I've been involved in construction for 20 years. I've been real estate finance. I've built a nursery and botanical garden, and been a teacher for all of this time, and then I started a collective about 3 years ago.
Okay. Well, what was it that actually got you involved in the medical marijuana industry, or what prompted you to get active? And
Well, I was a recreational user and cultivator since the 80s, and I was also a student of natural medicine in the late 80s, and cannabis was one of the herbs that were in a pharmacopoeia. At the same time, I was already growing it, and so I was experimenting and learning about other medicinal herbs. I had a big medicinal herb garden, and I was making all sorts of medicines, elixirs and tinctures and poultices and
to help with various
all different things for all different reasons. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I came upon a recipe that had cannabis as a tincture that was topical, a traditional Mexican arthritis remedy. And so I said, what the hell, I'll give it a try. And so I made a batch of it, and a guy that was kind of a mentor to me way back at that time, I made this batch of tincture, and I made all kinds of different tinctures, alcohol tinctures for all different reasons. And I made this one, and I was put it on my arm, but I didn't have arthritis, so it was kind of hard to tell if it worked or not.
Sure.
And this guy had said, well, what would happen if we drink it? I don't know. Let's find out. So I drank it, and wow, it worked. It worked really good. And so I became a student of liqueurs, and I started making these tincture liqueurs. And again, I did it recreationally. I didn't do it for medicine per se. But as I was studying natural medicine, I became aware of the benefit of relieving stress, and the benefit of sleep, and the benefit of all that. And I had sort of an epiphany about, fixing a lot of things with that.
Okay.
And the reasons why, I seldom got sick were because I didn't get stressed, and I slept good, and I smoked a lot of pot. So those things all went hand in hand, and I attributed part of it to that. But then I heard of a lady who had cancer, and she was in chemotherapy, and somebody hit me up and says, hey, I wonder if that tincture would work. And I says, well, I've heard a lot of things about it. This is in probably 89, 90, and I said, well, give her some, see what happens, So I gave her a little bottle of tincture, and sure enough, she was like a 70-year-old lady, and she never did drugs, she never smoked, she would have never smoked. And wow, this stuff worked wonders, and she was able to eat, and she was able to sleep, and she maintained a quality of life for a while before she finally succumbed to her cancer. And I can remember back then, a phone call she'd give me, just praying and thanking, and just like it was this miracle. And I was like, whoa, this was before there was medical marijuana, right? This was in 90, 91, and there was whatever it was. I'm just.
But she was benefiting from it.
Well, she was clearly benefiting from it, and I clearly became aware that this is. They were always, they were talking about it at the time. I mean, I've been talking about it forever, but I got a personal experience with it, so that told me that wow, there's something here. Not much happened between then and probably
let's come to we'll go to the next question, which would be when it became legal. So when it became legal in the state of
So
California,
in '96,
what did you do to?
I didn't do anything. I didn't
Okay.
buy it. I was like, screw you guys. I'm not getting on your list.
Okay.
And so I continued to, grow recreationally out in the bush and doing my own thing. And I didn't, whatever, you guys go get your card. I don't care. I didn't buy it. I didn't believe there was any protection.
Okay.
And then, Ed Rosenthal got busted, and, all these people were getting raided and busted, and I'm, how about it, you guys? I wasn't, it was a long way from being fixed.
Right.
And then SB 420 got passed, and I'm still, whatever, we're still not there. I'm not, I really wasn't, I just wasn't interested. Why would I get my name on that list? I did what I wanted. I grew my weed. I didn't hurt anybody. I had a job. I had a life. I raised kids. I bought a house when I was 21 years old with legitimate money, and had my first business when I was 18, and my second business when I was 21. I made all right for myself. Why would I put my name on a list that could potentially get me in trouble? And so I didn't. And but then it turned out that my friend who taught me how to grow ended up getting brain cancer. And he ended up getting his card in, I think it was 05, maybe 06. Yeah, I think it was 05 or yeah. And then almost at the same time, I had another friend who got lung cancer. And so I got now two good close friends of mine that are dealing with cancer. First time I ever dealt with cancer in a real personal level with somebody that, I spent a lot of time with. So, really, yeah. And my friend Paul actually succumbed to cancer, and I was living at his house taking care of him when it happened. So, but in the end, I can remember, I'd always bring a little smoke for him, and it helped him. It helped him feel better. And so, again, I didn't care if he had a card or not. I didn't have a card, whatever. Screw you.
It's
Here,
two
smoke
friends
some
trying
weed.
to help a friend out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't worry about it. My friend Bill, he had Hep C, and what's the other thing he had then? Bill? Anyways, he was being treated with interferon and really bad chemo, and he'd come over here and he'd be like dead. His face would be pale and skinny, and I'd give him some weed. Here, maybe that'll help you. Yeah. And it would, and again, I didn't, whatever. I didn't need any piece of paper to make me legitimate. I just a guy helping out in a way I could.
Right.
And so anybody would do that. The way I thought it, anybody would do it. Here, take this, it might help you. And so then Shannon got sicker and sicker, and his wife became his primary caregiver, and so she started picking up, he couldn't grow anymore. And, I had a little thing going on in his garage, but, he got to a point where he couldn't even smoke anymore. And during that point, I had gotten into real estate finance, so I wasn't really growing much. I didn't have time to, and so I was kind of, really not involved with the movement. I still, had enough to smoke my own, but I didn't just, I was busy doing, trying to raise a family and make a living. And Shannon started getting sick, worse and worse, and I became aware of all these different collectives and different things people were making. They were making tinctures and honeys and all sorts of cool stuff. And I was like, wow, I was the guy who did that, 20 years ago. Yeah. And I didn't know anybody who was doing it. Now all of a sudden, there's all these different things that people were making. And I watched it work, and I can remember, at the end of his days, he couldn't smoke. He just couldn't. And I remember putting, a couple of drops of tincture under his tongue and just watching that relief almost immediately come. And, same thing with Paul towards the end. They had him on morphine and all this crazy stuff, and he hated it. And I could just, burn a couple of bowls with him, and you just watch him just sort of relax. And it's like, wow, So
it had a positive impact
huge positive impact. And,
quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it had been anything, I would have done the same thing. If it had been, hawthorn root or some tree bark or whatever, I wouldn't wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if it was legal or not. It was something that helped him. So, you know, it wasn't even about pot. It just happened to be pot that was the thing that worked. So then the real estate market crashed, and now we're in 2007, and I was, you know, Paul died, Shannon died,